Champs, today we're talking about the true secret that the biggest creators in the world, they don't want you to know about. Just ask yourself, what do creators like Iman Gadzhi, Alex Hormozi, Koe, Ali Abdaal, what do they all have in common? Yeah, I mean, look, I know they're all massive nerds, but it ain't just that. I mean, you might just think it's because of their giant audiences, but it ain't. What they all have in common is that they've all built micro cult audiences of hyperfans. Just look at what happened when Hormozi did his last book launch last year. Every single online nerd bought into that pre-sale to snag themselves an acquisition.com hat. What the hell type of businessman sells out merch like that? That is insane, but it happened. And these micro cult audiences are what's putting them on track to become the next wave of billionaires. I mean, word on the street is that Hormozi is technically a billionaire now because Skool hit that unicorn valuation. Yeah, we like that. So this shit works, but what if you could also build a micro cult audience? What would happen if you could also build a personal brand fully stacked to the tits with raving customers? Despite what you think, there is a formula for building a brand audience so strong that it turns into a money printing machine. I've been studying these nerds now with a magnifying glass, and it turns out there are very specific things that they all talk about intentionally to create massive amounts of influence and persuasion, the type of merge buying persuasion. Look, the cool thing is that this formula is what you can use to build a wildly profitable personal brand at a fraction of the size and without all the downsides that come with being internet famous. Despite what you might think, you don't need 1 million followers. You just need a micro cult audience of 1,000 super buyers. Now, I know this works because over the past 12 months, I've grown from 7 to 77,000 followers on Instagram using this exact same formula. And what's been sick, which I honestly never predicted would have happened, but I've had some of my absolute heroes start following me. Guys who I've looked up to for over a decade and followed on social media. I thought I'd never cross paths with guys like Russell Brunson, the Abdaal himself, Ryan Fisher, one of my biggest kind of CrossFit heroes back in the day, like OG YouTubers like Elliot Hulse. I was on a call with him last year. Guys like Matt Ogus, who got me into working out when I was like kind of early to mid 20s. There was 1 week where the DJ Blondish started following me, which was frankly a total mindfuck, considering I was watching her at a rave in New York the year before. And here I was chatting to her in the DMs. I mean, I think she unfollowed me after that, but it's another story in it. Anyway, look, so I'll never forget that week when kind of all of these people just started following me, and within days of each other, that was wild. But here's the real proof that this micro cult brand formula thing works, okay? I don't have a massive audience by any means, but I managed to bring in $194,400 for my business last month. But it ain't just me. My clients in Scale 20 with pretty modest sized audiences have also been smashing it. Taryn hit a record month in her business, $96,650. Ollie crushed it with a 48K month. Louis smashed it with a record 80K month for his PT business. Patricia had her first ever 37K month. Frederick hit 64K without even taking on any new clients. Mark and Jen smashed it. They brought in 24 grand in new revenue. Oscar had a record month with 52K with his Chinese language coaching business. And our lad Brett, he just hit a solid 40K month too. All because they stopped trying to please everyone and started building micro cult audiences instead. By far, maybe the longest lever that I've used to build my business has been YouTube. Now, I've got a free YouTube accelerator course in my Skool Communities. It's totally free. I've compiled all of the resources that I used to grow my audience here. You can just join, so the link is down in the description. The truth is, we've entered the next season of the creator economy. And if you don't understand these new rules, you just won't survive, okay? Let alone thrive. Today, I'm gonna give you the exact micro cult brand formula that these creators use and I've used, so you can build a personal brand audience of hyper fans without needing millions of followers. Right, welcome to the micro cult brand formula. There are 3 core components to this formula. But first, I'm just going to explain this thing using an analogy that is going to make sense and it'll make everything crystal clear for you. The first thing you need for people to feel like they know you, they have to know your world. And the best example ever of a world that people came to love is your friends. Look, well, I mean, if you've seen the TV show, they probably feel like your friends, even though they're not. And that's That's exactly the point I'm making. Friends was the biggest TV show of the 90s and early 2000s. I watched it every single week, and you got to feel like you knew them as friends. That was the meta part of the show itself, because they all had these three key components. Now, the first one's pretty obvious. There were characters in this world. There were the main characters. You probably had your favorite. Mine was Joey Tribbiani, epic character, loose unit, but he was jokes as fuck. But they also had side characters: Chandler's parents, Rachel's sister, Ross, and the ugly naked guy across the street. These characters made you feel like you knew them at a personal level. Right, check this out. So 10 years ago, I was in Shoreditch House in London. I was getting into the lift and it was just me. And then some dude walks in to go up with me. And I remember thinking to myself, I swear that was Ross from Friends who just got in next to me. And I do that little thing where you kind of like look off to the side and then like look out the corner of your eyes. And I was like, yep, that's Ross from Friends. Anyway, that was my little Friends story. I had to just drop in I met Ross from Friends, even though I didn't. I just stood next to him in a lift. But anyway, you get the point. So next, each character had specific interests. Joey was obsessed with food. He had a big appetite and he had a career being a mediocre soap actor. Phoebe was known for her shite music and Monica was known for being OCD. These interests and character traits were another layer that allowed you to understand and relate to these people. The final component of their world were their sets. They had the apartments. They had the Central Perk coffee shop. They had all of the other locations that they used. These were the physical spaces that became part of their world. Now, here's how the big creators use this exact same formula. You'll be familiar with Daniel Darlin, right? He has characters. Himself, he's got his inner circle he travels around the globe with. Hormozi, he'd be nothing without Layla, and Layla would be nothing without Alex. They're the perfect dream team of business hustlers. We got Iman Gadzhi, constantly talks about his mum being his guiding light for everything that he did when he started his business ventures. These guys all have sets too. So Daniel's traveling around the globe, hitting us with the sick lifestyle vids of him working 23 hours a day. We've got the Hormozis, they've got their acquisition.com office and gym. They've got their reality TV style show going on too. They're making their own friends over here. And here's my little humble world at a glimpse. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I love things like golf. That's one of my core passions and interests. I also love exercising, stuff like high rocks, CrossFit, running. I'm doing my first ultra marathon in a Represent event next week, which is going to be sick. I also love house music and, occasionally misbehaving when I'm listening to house music. I show my sets here, right here. This is the Office of Destiny here in London. That over there is the whiteboard of truth that you might have seen on my podcast channel. I'm intentional about showing these things at very specific times, whether it's through long form content like this or short form content on Instagram. This isn't random. It's strategic world building. Now, the second component is your conviction. You have to have conviction that your way is better than all the other ways of doing things. Now, here's the dirty little secret of entrepreneurship that no one ever talks about. Everything works. Yep, you heard me say it. Everything works. Now, if everything works, why are there so many different ways to do things? Because you have to choose the right way for you. For example, I hate cold outreach, okay? So therefore, I have a system of lead generation that relies on not cold outreach. I've chosen specifically to do things in a specific way. Alex Hormozi's conviction shows up in his books. Gym Launch Secrets, his first book turned into $100 million offers, and then his entire collection of $100 million books. He has detailed mechanisms and unwavering conviction around them. Okay, your conviction needs two parts. Part one is your unique mechanism. You need to detail exactly how you do things and have absolute belief that your way is the best way. Now, part two is your enemy. Your mechanisms need an antithesis. In dumbass terms, you need a villain to go after. So for me, it's shit like cold emailing, cold DMs, cold outreach. I just absolutely hate them because that's not how I choose to use my time. It's fine. It works. You can absolutely grow a business with cold outreach, but it ain't my vibes. The Miro nerds love a bit of cold outreach, but it ain't what I'm here to do, and it ain't what we do here. Okay, one of my other core beliefs is that funnels suck. And despite my former life, just a few years ago, being a funnel analytics consultant for some of the biggest brands in the world, I think they suck ass for creators like you and me. With funnels, you get a whole load of people going through this thing and then they end up in a big pile of dead leads. You pay for the lead generation, you put time and energy into getting these leads, typically loads of money with cold advertising, and then they end up forgotten. I know now that the better way is to put people into a flywheel instead of a funnel. This way people stay in the system, you nurture them over time, no pile of dead leads, okay? The third component is your journey, which has three parts to it. So firstly, it's your origin. Where did you start? Second is your vision. Where where are you going? And then third is your mission. Why do you do what you do? The best way to share this is through prolific documentation. So shout out to Iman Gadzhi. He started posting like 8, 9, however many years ago, and he was posting about bodybuilding and the conjugate method. Now he's making videos about how to make millions. He's documented his entire journey. Alex Hormozi talks about this on his podcast, The Game. His mission for documenting everything is what he always wished dudes like Buffett, Musk, and Bezos, he'd wish they had documented their journey from 0 to 1 billion. So they haven't, so he's doing that for others. I mean, I posted my first video on YouTube fucking like 15 years ago. Just it was me swinging a golf club pretending to be Tiger Woods. But it wasn't until I started taking a little bit more seriously about 6 years ago where I've been documenting my journey too. The key lesson is that your journey means nothing if it isn't prolific. Alex Hormozi has made 750 podcast episodes. I mean, his YouTube channel's got 2,900 videos. Guys like Iman and the Abdaal, they've been consistently posting for years. You need to document your journey consistently. But here's the crucial part you need to wrap your brain around. You are not the hero, okay? Your audience is the hero. You need to provide content that makes them see that they can become the hero of their own story. The best way to do this is through showing results, case studies, interviews, customer stories. That's why I share results like those in my content. I dot them about, I do interviews with my clients when they've turned into success cases. You need evidence and proof that you're capable of delivering what you promise. The next one is you need a transformation story. And this is broken down into 3 elements. Your relatable downfall moment, which is where you hit rock bottom. Your phoenix rising moment, which is where you climbed back up to the top of the mountain. And then 3 is your track record, which is why people should listen to you. Here's some examples of this. So Alex Hormozi talks about how he was broke sleeping on his gym floor, and he's gone from being broke to rich and jacked. The Koe and Hamza, he went from being just like a standard Asian nerd, like kind of I was when I was a kid, and he's now rich and jacked. I went from being a stressed out cosmetic dentist who ended up getting to the worst shape of his life. Life was miserable when I first entered entrepreneurship. I was dead broke, and I've built to a 7-figure business in the last couple of years, also whilst getting back in shape. Transformations work because they prove that you've done the journey your prospects hope to achieve. You're showing it's possible. Okay, let's recap here. So step 1 is build your world. Okay, define your characters. You, your inner circle might be friends, family. Second, identify your interests. What are they? What are you genuinely passionate about? Third, show your sets. Where do you work? Your locations, home, office, lifestyle, gym, whatever it might be. Step 2, establish your conviction. Choose your unique mechanism, which is your way of doing things. Identify your enemies, which is what you stand against. And then finally, document why your way is better. Okay, and step 3 is going to be share your journey, okay? Document consistently. Aim for prolific content creation. Show client results and case studies, and then tell your transformation story frequently. The magic happens when you give an aspirational identity to your audience. Hamza is probably the best guy at doing this. He does this with his Jeffrey versus Adonis concept. For me, it's the difference between being a lifestyle entrepreneur, one who optimizes for fun, freedom, and fulfillment, compared to just another business builder that follows the tactics of all these nerds who love putting together Miro boards at the weekends. You want to create an us versus them frame. Tell people there are those people over there doing that bullshit, and then we're over here doing things differently for our reasons. The way you do this is by demonstrating and talking about your core values. For example, lifestyle entrepreneurs, we are lifestyle first, whereas typical business builders are business first. We focus on profit first, they focus on revenue first. We use marketing-based conversion, they use sales-based conversion. Give your people a lexicon to use. You ever wondered why I say right champ at the beginning of videos? Yeah, it's intentional. You want people to adopt your language, okay? So here's some next level source for you guys, because this is some real heat. And this might just break your mind every time you watch these videos of either me or some of these other nerds, okay? But there are 2 power sentences that if you use in your content, you're gonna have fans ready to hand over their cash. Okay, so sentence 1, if you're anything like me. You'll hear this all the time now, but this is calling people out for their aspirational identity. You're saying if you aspire to be anything like me, then this applies to you. Sentence 2 is, I get asked this all the time. Yep, I get asked this all the time. You'll hear people say this a lot now. This is a massive authority play because it shows that people are constantly asking you for your perspective. Watch any of these big creators and I promise you'll hear these phrases constantly. Right, if you've made it this far, you're clearly serious about building something real, okay? First, you can join my free private community Scale, and that's in the link down below. This is just for creators who kind of know who they want to serve. Maybe they've made some money, probably have some case studies, but now it's time to scale. You can go click the link down below and you'll have access to a load of free resources in there. If you're going to remember one thing from this video, stop trying to be everything to everyone, okay? Start being one thing to someone. Right, if you want the complete step-by-step roadmap that I've used to go from 0 to over 150K a month, I got asked to make this video recently, so I did. I've got a video that's going to break it down, that entire journey that I went from 0 all the way to where I am now, and you can check out that video up there. Okay, that was sick. See you in the next one.